new normal is very timely for us. And last year, we were hit by 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and just later in 2013, Typhoon Yolanda hit our place. This afternoon is going to be a very interesting one because we have speakers and our reactors to enlighten us or further what is happening in our country today and some calamities that we are facing. And right now, may I call on Ma'am Evelyn Nacario Castro to give us the welcome remarks. A round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, guests, partners, and friends. Welcome to the third part of this year's and as we even listen to the news, like the recent earthquake 2 days ago, Chile having an 8.2 magnitude earthquake, and of course the one we had last year, it drives home the point, although of course in the context of disaster risk reduction, this is really what we are really aiming for. How are we ready for these kinds of eventualities? I say eventuality because it's going to happen, and although perhaps we don't know when and the degree and magnitude of the occurrence of these disasters, we need to be ready. Of course, as mentioned by earlier, that the earthquake we had last year, and of course the super typhoon Yolanda of 2013, the way we responded to these calamities, of course, suggests that we need to further build our capability in terms of climate change adaptation and as well as disaster risk reduction and management. So responding to this said challenge, the Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated, Eduardo Aboitiz Development Study Center, has organized this New Normal Forum series to increase the public's awareness and of course our key leaders towards informed decisions on better preparation for disasters, both in terms of physical and social infrastructure, improving our response, management, and rehabilitation of disaster-affected areas, and looking at recent trends and strategies and approaches towards disaster risk reduction and management, and climate change adaptation applicable in the context of the Philippines. The first and second parts of the forum series conducted last January and February, respectively, tackled disaster resiliency for both physical and social infrastructures. However, as we learn to build more resilient structures and communities, we need to look deeper into the hazards and risks associated with disasters if we are to make more effective and efficient interventions on disaster prevention, preparation, mitigation, and response. Hence, the forum this afternoon will discuss how to better understand and prepare in the midst of physical, economic, environmental, and social vulnerabilities. Among the key issues that we will be looking into is the current state of the fishery sector, noting that this is an important economic lifeblood, particularly of northern Cebu. As we note, several humanitarian groups, including that of RAFI, have done or are doing or are planning to do livelihood interventions, particularly in northern Cebu, Bantayan Island, and of course, Daan Bantayan. While the need to provide boats, fishing boats, may be imminent and necessary, we have also to consider the capacity of our marine resources to meet the demands of our fisher folks, not only today, but in the future. With consideration that the marine ecosystem actually sustained significant damage during this super typhoon. Given the said risk, we need to integrate marine rehabilitation in our initiatives to make our livelihood programs more sustainable. On a larger note, we go back to the readiness of our local government units and our communities in preparing for, mitigating, and responding to disasters. From a number of best practices, and in fact this afternoon we'll also share this with you, a localized approach is necessary to conceptualize, develop, employ, install, and manage appropriate strategies and mechanisms for information dissemination, of course, implementation and institutionalization of the DRRM. We are glad, of course, at this stage to have someone who will be able to share this with us from Oxfam and, of course, from our own Cebu province. No? from the task force with Pagligon, Mr. Botts, who is here with us. Earlier, of course, I mentioned the study, the need to look at our marine ecosystem, and we are privileged to have a specialist, really a known and recognized expert in this area who will be presenting later on. We hope that the inputs from our resource persons and reactors, as well as that of your inputs and interaction and sharing this afternoon, will provide valuable insights into making our homes, our communities, more safe and secure. Maayong hapon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Ma'am Maxi. And at this point, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. He's a professor of biological sciences at Silliman University. He obtained his bachelor's degree in biology from the said university and completed his master's degree in the same field at Stanford University. He also got an honor doctorate from both Xavier University and the University of Southeastern Philippines. His outstanding awards and contributions in the Philippine biological sciences have earned him several awards and distinction, including the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Public Service, also the Biodiversity Award from Field Museum, and the Pew Fellowship in Marine Conservation, and among others. He is currently the director of the Angelo King Center for Research and Environmental Management, as well as the Commission on Higher Education Zonal Research Center of Silliman University. His talk is going to be about the status of the marine ecosystem in Bantayan Island, a basis for rehabilitation and livelihood. Help me welcome Dr. Angel Alcala, Professor Emeritus of Silliman University. Round of applause, please.
Ngayong hapon. As I heard the introduction, looks like you would like to put my report in the context of climate change in general. And find out how people, including local governments and national government, can respond in terms of adapting to the changes. And I'd like just to remind everybody that the process of adaptation of, especially with reference to biological organisms, is a long process. Takes hundreds of millions of years. So this changes, climate changes, the heating up of our atmosphere has plenty of repercussions and after effects. So it will require a long period of time. Organisms in general adapt very slowly. And the environment, unfortunately in the tropics, our environment is already having temperatures that are near the optimum for many organisms in the sea. In other words, if you have a temperature of 28, 29 degrees Celsius, that's already very near the top critical temperatures that will destroy their larvae and their way of living. So if you go up to 30 or 31, then you expect coral reefs to die off. Whereas if the temperatures goes down to 20 or 22, this species will thrive very well. So the limit is on the top. The critical temperature is on the top rather than the bottom. And unfortunately, it is going to the top. It's the tendency. The second tendency is that the disasters that are brought about by the heating of the earth occurs during the winter months of the northern hemisphere. And so you have typhoons hitting us during November, December, January, February, and even March. That's during the winter months of the northern hemisphere. And not only that, these typhoons occur at the lower latitudes, and hitting the Visayas and Mindanao. There used to be a time during my period of history that there were no typhoons in Mindanao. That's why we have plenty of bananas there, because bananas grow only in areas where there are no typhoons. But anyway, that's just an introduction to my talk. I was requested by the RAFI to deliver a lecture on the results of our surveys of the Bantayan group of islands. And the Bantayan group of islands, fortunately, under RAFI and Dr. Opusa's, Attorney Opusa's program, were assessed in 2011. And in 2012, we have written the paper that is referred to in our report. And the next report, of course, was more than 3 months after Yolanda, which is November 8, 2013. So we have here an ideal situation where you have a baseline in 2011, and we can easily compare with 2014. The difference, most of the difference that we find that I should present can be attributed to Yolanda, even though exploitation of fishery resources also had something to do, but maybe to a minor extent, because we have controls in our research. There are always controls, the experimental and the control. So that's it. Next slide. So, as I've been saying, your first assessment in 2011, actually, that is the date of the paper that's still to be as awaiting publication. And that paper, by the way, talks about resilience to climate change. And we noted that one of the reserves there is relatively more resilient compared to the others, namely the Hilang-Tagaan Island. Okay, so after typhoon, that's February 2014. Now, our survey was a rapid survey. Yeah? Very rapid survey because we put all the people there. We had two of my assistants went there to visit our former student that was studying for the survey for the social aspects of protection, marine protection. And two of our assistants went there, and then 3 full-time working full days in December went there to do the actual assessment of the knowledge. So the question that we ask is simple. Did Yolanda damage the reefs and the fisheries? The fisheries here refer to the coral reef fisheries and the pelagic fisheries. So if it did, then by how much? Remember that the typhoon occurred more than 3 months ago when the resurvey was made. And that's, of course, the course of Yolanda. That's the Bantayan Island and the these all were assessed in 2011. All these red spots here. But our survey, these ones here, by the way, are mostly seagrass. These ones are the nice reefs here, and here were protected. These are all protected areas here, so up to here. Totaling about more than 200 hectares, and we resurveyed those. So notice that Igo Gyod, Bantayan, going to Palawan. So the next please. Now, I did not like to go into the methods, but essentially we use the same standard methods. So there's no difference between the methods that we used in 2011, 2012, compared to the methods used in 2014. And these are the standard methods that we have been using, that we ourselves developed, by the way, in Australia in the mid-1980s. We developed this with the Australian ASEAN group of scientists
and we agreed on these methods, and those are the methods that are currently being recognized and are the methods that are used by people who write papers published in journals. So here, the next slide, please. This is a comparative approach. And it's good how they compare. Because if you do not compare it, how will you know that there was a difference? So we're happy that all of this occurred. We have done the work earlier, and we are pretty sure that the results that we find today are substantially reflected by the effects, by the results that we have measured, although fishing, as I said, in control areas prior to Yolanda may have also contributed to the fishery decline. Next slide, please. Well, let's look at the fish, because, you know, Bantayan depends so much on fish. They have very little resources on land, so they are really fish eating. Now, 2012, all the blues are 2012. 2014 are all the red bars. These ones are standard error of the mean, SE. So we know the limits of our data. This is reserve, this is fished, here the reserve, this is also a reserve, and this is the fished, reserve, fished. Hilantagaan, Chion, this is a big coral, 3 or 4 marine protected areas in Chion, and this is the one on Okoy, fish. Hapla ito, tanan, hapla. Buba, tanan. Ang kaya, butang dito, buba. So that is the situation when you make artificial structures. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is the reef bente composition. This one is sand, and this is live hard coral, the yellow. This live hard coral during this one, live hard coral, sand, rubble, isang all rubble to. The sand. So others are algae, and of course this is the rubble. So you can see that the environment of both the reserve and the fished area, reserve and fished area, both Ilantagaan, Chion, and Okoy, had all very small amounts of hard coral left. And you can see that in the picture later, I will show it. And most of them are sand or coral rubble. So that is the situation, the benthic composition. When the waves, how much is the, what was the travel, how fast the typhoon travel? 300 kilometers per hour. That's a terrible speed to destroy shallow areas. So there's no question that the benthic composition was really reduced to sand and rubble. Next slide. The fishery assessment. You have, these are the catch per unit area in kilograms per set per hour. These ones are the net, anong tawag yan sa Bisaya? Bukot. Ang gilnet. In 2012, bukot per set, you have almost 1.2 kilogram per set per hour. Per hour, so they are the same measures. Gilnet. Now, it's only about 0.5 kilos per set per hour. The hook line, kini individuals ni, no? individuals, can you see that's only 0.3? That means 330 grams of fish per man, per hour. How you sit down there fish for 3 hours and you get only 0.3, 1/3 of the kilogram. See? And this one, that was in 2012, but this one is in 2014, and that's about 0.1 now after 0.1 kilogram, 100 grams. Those are all the fish measurements and fishery assessment. And you have reduction by 50 to 60% in catch per unit effort due to the typhoon, mostly due to the typhoon. Next slide. There's another, that same slide. Income, this is the income per unit, of course, income follows. Income per unit effort. Same way of determining income per unit effort. So reduction in fishing in income of the fishermen. Next slide, please. Okay. These are the kinds of fish, reef fishes, that are caught by what they call the Threeply Nylon gill net after 2 hours of fishing. This is after 2 hours of fishing. Threeply, meaning wala din makagawas doon kay tatlo mo ka-fly. Sulod paggawas sa isa, nakapagsa. Gawas sa kadua, nakapagod ka tulo. So, also ba? Ang gamay na wala na ipakita, mga gamay diha. These are all common fish. These are about 6 or 7 families of all reef fishes. Reef fishes. Threeply Nylon. Next slide. Well, the corals, moving survival sa coral. Kanang mga coral nga boulder type, mga massive coral, munang resistant to the typhoon waves. Walang gumukha no, nalwikuan siya. Tako na kayo. Yung Aboitiz, very resistant to. Pero kini, munang coral, dili layhan ng mga turista ini, ang problema. But it's a coral, yes. Next slide, please. Now, this is the kanang hilang tagaan, one of the best coral reefs. I was very proud of it. But to reduce to this, something like this. Kita mo niyo, these are all the branching corals, all destroyed. Di na, mamatay na. Kita mo niyo mga corals, mga Aboitiz po din, kini, fire coral ni. Muna mo, salong ba ini, sagiran mo na siya, matol ka, sakit pa, katol, sakit. Kini, fire coral. Ito, Aboitiz to, kini, Aboitiz, green coral. They have survived. Survive mo na sila. Pero di lang mayong lang taon. Pag ang mga isda actually, ang doon, na isda rin, murot na leway. Nalat mo sa tubig. Namatay ito. Kung tago pa, naray pa, no? Sa? Nag-blow sa. Yung convict fish. Gamay na lang nabilin. So that's the situation ng bilang taga-Andre Shell. This was very good marine activity. Okay? So most of these branching corals were destroyed. But this will grow. They can grow faster. In about 5 years, they will grow if left. Ang problem is, kung sigihon na sila disturbo sa mga mananaga, di na sila makagrow. Pero lang, dili ko na nang disturbo, ano magbalik sila. Muna mo dali, mabalik. O dali po, puy-puyan sa mga isda. Ito mga coral. Ito, muna ginakaon sa mga parrot fish, mga mulmul, pinit, kasi mga isda nila, puyo niya. There are about 76 or 7 families of fish that are food fishes found in these reefs. Next slide, please. Well, more ilas encircling net for tuna. Ila kong bye-bye. Manang ilang ginapanguha sa tuna. So, tuna nila, gamay na po makuha. Pero ang tuna, the good thing with tuna is they move quite a lot. And the tuna can recover. Tuna fishery can recover more quickly than before a reef is. Okay, next slide please. Moni ilakuha. Ilakuha niya muning rainbow runner. Rainbow runner ni. Ini mga mamsa group. So you have the mamsa group. Muning kuha nila by gear, datong gear nga I showed earlier. That's in one fishing trip. It's just what they got. For how many hours? Next slide, please. Kini, 3 oras na fishing sa ilang tagaan, mura nang nakuha. 4 small reef fishes, pilang 250 grams. Yeah, for 3 hours. Can you live with that for 3 hours? Yeah, rabbit fish ni. Siganit. Ini bukaw. So, gawin na lang nakuha mo sa mga fishermen. Okay, next slide. Now, these are larger views of the corals, how they were devastated. So, you really can see that many areas are like this in the Silon area, Silon, as well as in the Ilatakaan area. Next slide. Okay, so we can summarize it by saying pelagic and reef fisheries suffered a reduction in abundance and biomass, resulting in fish cuts by fishermen. Next slide. Our expectations, I did not say conclusions, but we just expect. Recovery of destroyed corals will take several years. Ang among experience in our work, it takes 5 years to 10 years for the corals to return back to about 50% cover. Granting that walang disturbance. Pero ang fishermen kung managat na diya, especially may pukot sila, mag-destroy din ang corals nga very fragile, kining branching corals, very more fragile yun. It will take decades for reef fisheries to recover and contribute to the adult fish catches of fishermen as a result of spillover from the marine reserve. Kaya ng mga fish from the coral reef usually recovers from spillover from marine reserves. Spillover fish larvae was not determined because of the shortness of the visit, but they will be practically nil and will result in unsustainable fishery in the near future for coral reef families like 7 to 8 common species, common families in the coral reef. Pelagic fisheries, of course, may recover faster than the reef fisheries because pelagic fisheries can come from other areas. And maybe a couple of years, these pelagic fisheries can recover. But as long as they use Threeply, kanang mga gagmay, ilang sa kupo na, di na nang bago. Next slide, please. So, these are just some more suggestions here. One is non-marine fish will not be available in the immediate future as much as the people would want it. And we think that this biomass and marine reserve should, but it will take anywhere from 5 to 10 years before they can reach 100 tons. Yun ang problema, parehas pa na sa kahoy po ng atong gitaga, bukiran. Sayo ng pagtaga sa kahoy, in a few hours, tapos na. Pero pag patubo, balik, dugay, same thing here. Takes decades of protection for a coral reef to have a biomass of 100 tons per square kilometer. And this used to be most of the reefs in the country 30 to 40 years ago. They had 100 tons to 150 tons to 200 tons per square kilometer. That's the biomass of our fish. That was the time when I was growing up, and I could see all of those fish. Yes, I dove several times for 3 years, consecutive years, in the Tuna Reef. And at noon, di ka na makikita sa adlaw kung dito ka mag-dive sa dalong. Ay isda tagahugan, daga kayo. 100, 150 tons, 200 tons per square kilometer. That is just the amount of fish that we used to have in our coastal areas. Now, we did the survey of reefs throughout Central Visayas. There are only about 5, 10, 20 tons per square kilometer in our coral reefs, coastal areas. We lost from anywhere from 80 to 90% of what we have compared to the 3 or 4 decades before, 1930s, 1940s. Dagang isda during that time. Kung makita mo ito, kaya di na ako tumariproduce kay ilang taon naman ako, waman ako wikitsuri. Wala kay kamera to. During the war, we're looking at the coral reefs, my golly. And at that time, the coral reefs, we did not eat some of the fish. The parrot fish is not good to eat. Not worth eating. The best fish to eat are all of course the monsa, the lapu-lapu. Those were the fish that we used to eat. But now, including the parrot fish, nakaw na. Ayaw na pagluto, dili naman ba? Dili na langsa. And I don't, what will they put there when they cook the parrot fish? But the next one, next slide please. Next slide. Huh? Oh, that's the next one? Well, okay, I was going to emphasize this. I want, if possible, we talk to our people in Bantayan to lay off catching parrot fishes. Please don't eat the parrot fishes. Allow them to be there. Don't eat the surgeon fishes. Kining dalawang pamilya ng fish ni, they feed on fleshy algae that grow on that destroyed reef. You see, the reefs that were destroyed by Yolanda, you know what will happen there? The algae will grow. Fleshy algae will grow. But if these fishes are present, like parrot fishes and surgeon fishes, they will all be cropped up. They will all be eaten by parrot fishes and the surgeon fishes. That's why if we can avoid catching these fishes, we can help or accelerate the recovery of the reefs to a few years, several years rather than decades. So that is that's the final recommendations that we would like to give. And, we hope that, of course, this is the one. Alternative livelihood programs to reduce this. Fishing pressure is the one that will delay the recovery of these fish. But if they are looking to the future for more harvests of fish, and they should protect what they have in terms of their marine protected areas, and follow rules like lay off the parrot fishes and the surgeon fishes, so that there will be rapid recovery of the reef, so that the reef can be used by them again. Protected areas will generate more fish for them to catch outside of the marine reserves. So that's the situation. I'd like to acknowledge RAFI for giving us a chance to continue our studies. And we have been interested in the Bantayan and group of islands because these are, we thought that you have potential for tourism that will result from the Lantaraan Reef. That was one of the best reefs prior to Yolanda. So, na lang akong presentation.
Magang salamat, pagpaminaw. Thank you very much.